to the Tech Aunties podcast. I'm Gina Rosenthal, CEO of Digital Sunshine Solutions. We're a fractional product marketing agency.
And I'm Marian Newsom. I'm the founder of Ethical Tech Matters, and I'm an ethical technologist.
And here's our guest today. This is Katherine Manning. Would you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. It's such a pleasure to be here with the Tech Aunties. So my name is Katherine Manning. I am an author of the book, The Empathetic Workplace, 5 Steps to a Compassionate, Calm, and Confident Response to Trauma on the Job. I'm also a consultant and trainer, and I specialize in helping to build workplaces that are more human-centered and trauma-informed.
And this is why we wanted to talk to you, because we are the Tech Aunties, but we are very technical. And
We are.
That's why we have the podcast, is to talk about all sorts of things that face people in IT and that we have faced ourselves. And I know we've got a lot of good questions for you.
Yeah, and this topic is really relevant right now with all the disruption in tech, with the workforce, even the return to office policy and the impact on the workplace. How did you get passionate about this topic and really translating that to the workplace?
So my background is that I'm a lawyer, but a lawyer who for my entire career has worked with victims of crime. So I started off back in college doing hotline work, domestic violence, rape crisis work. After law school, I went to the Justice Department, the U.S. Department of Justice. And what I did there was I was a senior attorney advisor on victims' rights. And that meant that it was my job to guide the department through its response to victims of crime, whether it be like a terrorism case, like the Boston Marathon, huge fraud like Bernie Madoff, just trying to make sure that the department knew how to support victims in each of those cases. And a few things started to become clear to me. One was that people didn't need different things based on what they were a victim of. It wasn't like the way you would support a victim of fraud was all that different than the way you would treat a victim of human trafficking. Everybody needed to feel heard and acknowledged. Everybody needed a little help to get on their feet again. And then I realized it wasn't just the victims in our cases who needed those things. It was my colleagues too. Sometimes for reasons that were work-related, like they were dealing with a really hard matter or dealing with a really difficult person. Sometimes for reasons just because they were human, and humans sometimes are going to have experiences going through divorce or loss of a
Right.
loved one. And I just realized that these ways that we support each other at work through hard times has such a tremendous impact. It affects individual healing and well-being. Like, are you able to recover from what you're going through? It affects trust between us. Because
Right.
like, if I know that you supported me when I needed it, I'm going to be there for you forever. And ultimately, are we able to meet our organizational mission? Because if people are healthier and have better trust, we're going to be a lot more successful on everything we do.
And so are you finding the commonalities between like the workplace and corporate policies and the impact on employees as we go through these life events? It's very similar to the work you've done previously?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess let me just give you a quick example to kind of flesh out how
Okay.
it shows up. So there was a time when I was at DOJ where one of my colleagues, another lawyer, he had been in one of these giant government meetings where you have like 30 people sitting around a
Uh-huh.
conference table, right? And his boss in the middle of the meeting belittled him, like made him feel really, really dumb and ashamed. And he comes out of the meeting and he comes storming into my office and he's just pacing back and forth in front of my desk. And I realized the way that I was talking to him was the exact same way I would have talked to a domestic violence victim on a hotline call 15 years earlier. Like, he needed active listening, he needed acknowledgement. And because I was able to do that, because I had those skills, within like 5 minutes, he had calmed down. He could go back to work. I could go back to work. He didn't do something really dumb, like go storm into his boss's office and yell at her or fire off an email or something. And I just realized that these issues show up all the time, in big ways and small ways at work. And if we can get better at handling them, we are going to be so much more successful on every level.
Exactly. So a lot of the companies, the attendees here at the Capital Factory are startups. And so what advice would you give them as they start to really form their companies and get their mission and vision? How should they look at actually building empathetic workplaces?
I really feel like when it comes down to building an empathetic workplace or being an empathetic leader, I always say there's three pillars of an empathetic workplace. The first is acknowledgement. That means that I will be heard here. If I say something, does anybody actually hear it? Do they just gloss over what I said? If I'm saying there's a problem here, do people try to talk me out of it, or do they actually hear what I'm saying? Part of that is also like, do you ever say thank you? I spoke with a woman once who was at a startup, and what she said to me was, this was like my dream. She said, I was so all in on this startup. I believed in the mission. I thought I was going to die there. Like I was,
Mm.
nights, weekends, round the clock. I believed so strongly in this startup. And she said, and then after 7 years, I suddenly realized that in the entire 7 years, the two founders had never said thank you to me,
Wow.
not once. And she said, once I had that realization, I started sending out a few resumes, and in a month, I had a job for twice the salary.
Wow.
And probably the story those founders tell themselves is, oh, well, we couldn't have matched that salary. But the thing is, if they had said thank you, she never would have looked in the first place.
Exactly.
So that first one is acknowledgement. Just do people feel seen and valued? The second one is support. So can I get help when I need it? What kind of policies do you have that are supporting mental health, flexible work, the things that people need in those difficult times? Do you have those policies, and do people know about them? So you got to talk about them frequently. What I like to advise is actually noisy self-care. So making sure that people know that you too are taking steps to protect your mental health. Like, it's one thing to say, hey, we've got phenomenal mental health resources, reach out if you need them. It's very different to say, we've got phenomenal mental health resources and they really helped me when I needed them. I hope you reach out if you need them. And then the third one is trust. And this is all about, do people feel like the workplace is fair? Do they feel like people have an equal voice in this environment? So to me, that comes down to, how are we building trust in the first place? I think that the way you build trust in any relationship is the 3 Cs: clarity, consistency, and choice. So are you clear, transparent about your expectations, timelines, your needs? Are you applying rules consistently? Are you saying everybody has to be in by 9, but you yourself roll in at 9:45? Like, the rules have to apply the same for everybody. And then finally, choice. Are you giving as much flexibility as possible so that people can have autonomy over the decisions that affect their lives? And then that final piece on trust also includes making sure that we're living our values. So if, for instance, you say you value creativity and inclusion and psychological safety, and you are ignoring the screamer down the hall, those aren't your values. Everybody knows it. We have to be willing to have difficult conversations, sometimes take really uncomfortable action in order to live our values, or they're not worth very much in the first place.
Yeah, it's so true. I'm listening to all of this and it sounds like the ideal place to work. But, if we talk in realities, the tech industry, I think, especially right now, there are so many layoffs, and the layoffs many times are they at least appear to be financially motivated. And so they are random, can be entire units, can be two people out of every organization, but it's just out of the blue. That person might be the core person you need there, and they're gone because of whatever reason. How can trust exist, or how can people nurture themselves in an area if they're stuck in a place that may not be the ideal place you described?
Well, I mean, one, I just want to acknowledge that layoffs are incredibly destabilizing and traumatic. Like, it is something that you carry with you for a long time and builds in this layer of fear in you as an individual and in the whole team. So it takes a while to come back from that. And so for anybody who has to go through that on the leadership side, I would just advise making sure that you are being as clear and upfront with people. Remember, clarity, consistency, choice, trying to give people as much information as possible, providing support to them through the process. Just try to avoid, I know know it's uncomfortable, but you have to be upfront about the difficult choices that you're making because that's how you build trust. Is people will understand. Listen, the numbers are what they are, but if they feel like you're hiding the ball, or if you're calling it, you're saying one thing, but actually something else is going on, that's going to exacerbate the trust issues. And then on the self care piece, like what what you can do to take
Right.
care of yourself. So one is I do want to just say that everybody has a role in creating the workplace culture. So it's not just like the director of, the vice
Mhm.
president of, who's the leader in that place. Everybody has a role in that. Like that noisy self care I was just talking about. If you walk in and you say, well, gosh, I have to turn off my phone at 9 at night, or I'm never going to get to sleep that night. Or if you say, gosh, I'm back in therapy this year, it's made such a big difference for me. Um, those things are creating the workplace culture that supports mental health. So you don't have to be in leadership to help create the culture, but then just how you are feeding yourself. What I generally advise is, um, so burnout, right? We've talked, everybody's familiar with the term
Oh, yeah.
burnout,
Most
right?
definitely.
Especially in tech, we know this term.
Yeah. So the thing about burnout is it is sneaky. Like it will sneak up on you. It's not a light switch,
Mm.
right? It is something that builds slowly over time. So one, we have to get better at recognizing our warning signs. I remember talking to this woman who was the head of a team. She's also an Asian American woman, and we were speaking right after the shootings in Atlanta that
Uh-huh.
targeted the
Mm.
Asian American community there. And she said, I think I got to get better at recognizing my warning signs. She had just heard me give a talk. And um, she said, I thought I was doing fine. I was reading the news. I knew what was going on, but I thought I was handling it. And then I was on a call with my team and I just lost it. I just started screaming at them.
Wow.
And she was like, I've never spoken to anybody that way, let alone at work.
Wow.
Mhm.
Have you ever heard that expression, right? The universe whispers first before it shouts. Like, I'm willing to bet there were a few whispers that she missed
Right.
before the shouting started. So get better at recognizing those warning signs, like things like a shorter temper, sharper edge to your sarcasm. Another common one is when things that are normally fun start to feel like a burden. Like
Mhm.
if I have to go out to dinner with my friends and all I can think is, I have to leave the house. I'm gonna have to put shoes on. What a pain. Like that's probably a
I
sign
mean,
that I
I
need to
see
be.
that a lot. I hate to
I
wear
know,
shoes.
maybe.
Oh, no.
Maybe it's better shoes.
Maybe.
I also recommend having a proactive plan to preserve your mental health, right? So like every day you are doing things to preserve your physical health. You're brushing your teeth, you're trying to eat healthy, you're exercising. What are you doing every day to preserve your mental health? You have anything?
Not looking at Instagram past
No.
a certain time,
Impossible.
like 3 o'clock.
Impossible.
Just don't look at yeah,
Yeah.
I think that is for me, it is. That's social media, especially on sites that have those algorithms that suck you in. Because I get sucked in. I'm a sucker. Show me funny puppy pictures. Let's
I
go.
know. I know, and I think especially now the news as well, right? I
Mhm.
mean,
Right.
the violence coming out of Israel and Palestine is so disturbing, and you can actually experience secondary trauma through watching a
Right.
video.
Just the
Um,
Oh,
images.
yeah,
Right.
there's some horrible,
yeah,
Right.
horrible things, yeah.
exactly. So just be mindful of what it is that you're exposing yourself to.
Do you mind taking a question?
Not at all, please.
First of all, hello, Catherine and Gina. It's a pleasure meeting you here at the conference. My name is Raj, and I'm a CTO for the startup called as Legal Fiber. So we are kind of integrating AI, artificial intelligence, and we are harnessing AI into our legal platform. So we are a startup, and we are trying to be the Amazon of legal industry in the upcoming decade. So we see a lot of potential in the AI. And the reason I brought this to your attention is since we are talking about the layoffs. I have a question for you guys. I wanted to know where do you see the tech industry leading in the next decade? Because of the AI advancing, you see there are a lot of AI, like especially generative AI and prompt engineering and artificial intelligence is taking on the future, right? Like ChatGPT and all the other things. So for an average American to secure the job, I agree with the three C's which you mentioned. So where do you think he can improve? Let's say, for example, if he chooses his career in database administrator or like a business analyst, which is like an average level tech job with this advanced AI integrating where things can be done by the computer, Where do you see that in the next decade? And how do you think an average American can advance in their career and set up a great life in America?
Sure. So the question was, this is an interesting question, right? So with all of the advances of AI, especially this generative AI, that looks to take new jobs, what can someone that is in tech, and not just in tech, I mean, we just talked about this on our aunties chat this morning. Sam Altman said 95% of marketing jobs
Right.
gone, done. Right. So, but this is, I think, a very traumatic thing to look at when, and I've got kids in their 30s that are like, how do we get a job? What is even the point right now if AI is going to take over the world? So, I think we both have our own personal auntie take on this, but like, what's
Right.
your auntie take on your professional and your
Yeah,
auntie
you're
take?
the expert. You give us your
Well, I would love to hear your takes as well, but I will tell you, I mean, you're not going to be surprised. I feel like human connection, emotional intelligence is going to be even more important going forward. I mean, that's the thing that you can't really rely on AI for. I always say everybody is in human management, even if you're a CTO, even if you're the tech person on your team, your job is the people, because that's how you're going to get your mission, you're going to get the productivity, the engagement, the trust, all of that is going to come out of the ways that you're supporting your people. So to me, that is an essential piece of it that everybody needs to have, regardless of the area you're going into. You know, your question kind of hits close to home. I have a son who's 17. He is an artist, so he's going to art school next year. And people have said, well, aren't you afraid? Like, isn't artist going away because we have AI now? And I think,
GPT-4 is capable of drawing.
yeah,
right.
exactly.
Right.
And I think, oh my gosh, I feel like right now you need human creativity even more because there's so much that the machines can do for us, but what they can't do is come up with something entirely
Trust and
new.
emotion cannot be replaced.
Yeah, empathy,
Empathy.
exactly.
But also
Exactly.
creativity is a form of therapy.
Mhm.
So you are taking away the like therapeutic kind of creative process when you're just doing it.
And it has to be like a meditation for some people rather than that. So I guess I cannot replace meditation as
Yeah.
That's true.
Absolutely. Yeah, we were just talking about ways to have your own thing that you're doing every day to enhance your own mental health and well-being. Art, meditation, these are excellent ones. And I think it is important that we keep, you keep kind of tickling those parts of the brain, right?
Yeah, I think,
yeah.
to put my spin on it, from a technical point of view, especially, what we're looking at is GPT. GPT, there's a great paper that was written about large language models called,
NLP, natural language processing.
right, about NLP, talked about compared large, they call it the stochastic parrot paper. So it was written about how this actually works, what it takes. There's a lot of ethical problems with it from
There
how they
is.
scraped the whole internet to create the data, to create the GPT, which that has my daughter has her MFA in creative writing.
Mm.
So if you scrape the whole internet and you use people's art without asking them and not without paying them and acknowledging, that's a problem. But also just the amount of power and water and everything else it takes to train these models, especially. But what I see is, well, if we rely on that to create our art, to create our writing, we'll just go into this mushy AI sounding garbage that's not human, that's not creative, that doesn't touch us like the arts do. And to answer your question specifically about database engineers, okay, I don't.
Because they are like the basic level jobs where you just have to write SQL queries. And
Right.
I
But
think
that's the boring part of the job.
Yeah.
People don't want to stay in that job forever. And so if we have a way to automate the code, or like we were talking about earlier, you can lock down your firewall with exactly what I want, but oh no, we've got to change it because we have to this port now for whatever. You can do it with one query and get it done. Of course, we want to do that. And so people, I think the danger for tech and those roles in particular, those entry level roles, may be that you don't get enough of the hands-on experience that we've all
Right.
known to grow and love and hate because you cut your teeth on it, right? But so people coming into the industry may not get that exact experience, but that's important to have that experience, But if you don't need it, nobody wants to write those stupid queries all day long. That's boring. You want to do the cool stuff with the data and manipulating the data and actually helping the application owner do something cool with their application besides "Hey, can you figure out if this works? Oh, something went wrong. Let me look at that log."
And
What
that is the reason, like big companies like Amazon, if you look at the hiring process, they have a 5-step interview where they have 2 technical rounds, one design round, and one HR round, and one system architecture round. So they wanted to assess the candidate in such a way where is he really good enough with what he has learned, or does he have hands-on experience?
Right.
That's how they made the hiring process even more a little bit complicated once the AI is into the market.
But that's
But you
always been
still have the potential, even going through all those rounds, you still have the potential to get someone who isn't a good fit. And I think use of AI to actually screen resumes um, and use keywords, you're really kind of missing out on that innovation, that spark, uh, right? That someone else, that a person actually brings to the role that AI is not going to be able to figure out. I may look great on paper, have all the right keywords. I may not fit in the culture. I may have hidden talents that I didn't even put on my resume. So that's my issue with it. I think it takes away the human part, the vulnerability, the innovation, and the creativity.
Yes. There are pros and cons on both ends.
Most definitely.
Like, for example, if you take Google, on an average, 10,000 people apply for a job, and
Mhm.
it's impossible for one humanly to evaluate each and every resume and kind of find out, is this guy potential, or is she a potential fit for this role? So
Right.
they kind of use this query algorithm matching, and then find if the keywords are correctly aligning to a particular job description, and does he have this
Mhm.
experience and expertise level, and then they make a choice.
and that's a traumatic thing too.
It is.
I think there was somebody else, and then we'll probably.
I am very happy to be here. And this is the first event that we attend today. We all work with legal private.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
really?
nice.
She's the CEO.
Great.
It's wonderful to see women. We are powerful.
Yes.
And
International Women's
really
Day.
everything that you said right now, and I'm sorry I missed you. I came in a little bit late. We were talking about that last night. We have this great synergy. We have so much fun together, and I also run a nonprofit that helps immigrants, so I understand what is to be underfunded and dealing with high crisis situations, people who were killed or died because they were denied medical attention, and
Mhm.
people the mother of waste time and say, "Is this your son?" So I understand what self care is, and coming from that background, I'm using this street example. I also was at the Latin Grammy, so like
Yeah.
it's bipolar. That's your
Mm.
the importance of self-care, and I have somebody who has 2 masters in social work, and there's a person that I use mostly for HR,
Mhm.
and we have a priest because of spirituality and faith, whatever works for you. Like for me, it's that dancing or going to the ocean sauna, whatever that is.
Nice.
We have so much fun together, and we try to sort of put, and so it's so amazing, like the universe how it brings things, because I'm very much into women empowerment, and of course I love men and I want them to love me.
Exactly.
The
Yeah.
equality in life. And it's just so amazing that the first thing we walk into, because for me to have fun, help others, make money.
Yes.
Yes.
That is how I live life when it comes to work. And if it doesn't meet those 3 things, I just don't want to
Yeah.
waste my time no matter what. Of course, I want to make a lot of money, because the more money we have, the more impact we'll have, and the more we can give back. And of course, I'm spoiled too, so I'm not apologizing for that. But anyway, so it's just so amazing, and hopefully, I would like to get your contact, guys.
Yes, of
yeah,
course.
it's amazing to be here.
We're so happy you joined us
This
this
was the
morning.
Yes,
first
we
thing
are.
we walked
Yeah.
I
into.
love
We
it.
talk about synergy, taking care of each
Yep.
And we were talking about that last night until like 3 in the morning, how important it is to take care of the people. And once you say there is no technology that will replace human connection. It's
Exactly.
nothing more rewarding for anyone, whether they are aware or not, that truly connecting with another person.
Absolutely.
In my opinion. But anyway, so yeah, we love for you guys to speak for us at some point. So
Love
at
it.
the card.
Absolutely. That would be
Good.
great. It would be great.
Good.
Thank you for all the interaction. Oh, we got one more.
Yeah, hi Gina. This is Deepak, and I'm with the Legal Fiber too. I have a small question. Like, most of the companies they're laying off, right? For like the guys like senior experts, right? They're laying off for the budget cuttings. So why didn't they hire like the freshmen? Like, I'm in the market. I completed my masters. I have my bachelor's, but still I'm looking for a job right now. It's been like more than 6 months, and I made my resumes, everything with like 8 years scan free, but still I'm not getting any jobs. And they're asking for like fund. It says like in LinkedIn, it's a fresh job, but they're still asking like 5 to 8 years of experience. So
Yeah.
like, how can I get into that company?
So the question is, and maybe we can talk about this once we wrap up. We can talk if you want to stick around for a minute. But the question is, somebody just coming into the industry with a master's degree and you see all the layoffs and you see all the jobs and you can't get a job, been months and months, and you are not alone. That's the first thing I would say. And we can talk about some specifics for figuring it out, but I think this is getting back to kind of the topic of trauma. This is the trauma in the IT world, right?
Right.
You have either
Right.
people that are mid senior level that are not going to do anything innovative right now. I would, because I'm like, I don't care. But like, which is why I have my company now. But people that are still there, yeah, I've got a mortgage to pay. I've got kids to get through college. I'm not
Right.
sticking my neck out.
Right.
And then if you get in there and you're very young, if you do get the job, a lot of times in the bigger companies, if you're new to the industry, you're going to do what you're told because you want to keep your job. So that's horrible because you lose all the innovation and the energy and the passion that somebody brings when they first come into the industry. So, and I know this situation very well because my kids are experiencing it. The same thing. It's very hard to get a job right now, like almost impossible. My daughter's been without work for a steady work for a long time. So how we could talk about we'll talk about specific ideas afterwards, but like from the trauma perspective, because that it does play a number on
It does.
your head, like, why am I here? I could do better than this, or what's wrong with me? Why won't anybody look at me? And so like how can somebody, what's your name again?
Deepak.
Deepak, how could Deepak stay motivated to keep going and knowing that there's a place for him in the tech industry?
Like every time I lose my job was like, I just gave like a couple of interviews. Every time I said like interview, I just tell myself like, everything is a better opportunity for me waiting.
Is that how he should do it? So he tells himself he's got a better
Like
opportunity
every
coming.
time, like
Yeah. So, well, what I will share with you is what helped me get through a difficult time in my life where I felt like I was a hamster on a wheel, like I'm running as fast as I can and I'm not getting anywhere.
Hmm.
And it was like that again and again, day after day after day. And it's really demoralizing. It is hard to keep your energy up. It's hard to like keep showing up every day enthusiastic when you have this long string of, this is just another hard day. So honestly, there were two things that I did that really got me out of that. One is I started at the end of the day, before I went to sleep, I had to list 3 things I did well that day. Okay? Doesn't seem like a big deal, but when you're in that phase, it is so easy to get bogged down on all the things that aren't working well, all the things that you messed up, all the things you failed to accomplish. And that little shift in mindset can help quite a lot. Just focusing more on here's what I have accomplished, here's something that I'm proud of myself for. And the other is, I started, I guess it was like a mantra. I just had this little saying, okay, because I was beating myself up a lot in that time. And I just started, like, every time I would start to do it, like, wow, well, that was a dumb thing. I can't believe, that's never going to work. I would say, I'm doing the best I can. And I always had to do it. I just would cut it off as soon as I started. I'm doing the best I can.
tomorrow is the better.
That's really powerful. And I think it stems from, I don't know if Martin Seligman is
Yeah.
he's the one about the 3 grateful, like what you're
Yeah.
grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
And that just reminds me of that. Like
Yeah.
what are you grateful for yourself? Instead of
Yeah.
like what things that I
Exactly.
do well and I can be grateful for, not just in the exterior world, but like for me.
Yeah.
Right. And it's that's did it come from that or
I think it was because I've recognized it wasn't really from that. It was just recognizing that I was beating myself up all day long and I needed to do something to counterbalance that.
Make it stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have
I think you
one
had a
more,
comment.
yeah, one more question.
Okay.
I've worked for the same company for 40 years.
Oh wow.
Wow.
For Chevron,
okay.
and I'm a digital scout, very technical. And I'm wondering because I've been working for so long to several different jobs. And you can imagine when I started, expectations were you worked 80 hours a week, you ought to get ahead, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
the company's done a shift. Work-life balance, very important, and they really need it. But then I find myself, because we probably go through layoffs every 4 years, and we're going through another one. is because I'm in a different space, and if I lose my job, I'd be okay. I wouldn't have been 20 years ago. Like, what's one piece of advice that I can do to help my coworkers that are, they're younger, they're not, you said a mortgage, this and that, I have kids, I need to get through school. What's the one thing I can do to help them kind of make it through these periods?
Let me re-ask the question just real quick. We're mic'd up. That's why for our podcast, right? So we have a guest who been in one job for 40 years and one company, lots of
That's
different jobs at the
amazing.
company. And she is at a place where she's happy, whatever happens. They go through layoffs every few years. But she wants to know what's the one thing she can do to make life easier on the rest of her colleagues that maybe aren't in a place where they can be good no matter what happens.
I mean, I really do think it's the leading by example. So talking openly about times that you've struggled, talking openly about how you have kind of kept your head up. I mean, in the same way that I just shared a story about when I struggled and here's what got me through it. I would talk about that a lot with your colleagues. Check-ins are really important. I think we don't do them enough. Just like hey, thinking of you can actually sometimes be the difference between, somebody able to kind of keep getting one foot in front of the other and really not. So maybe even just like make a list. Here are the people I want to check in on. And put some time on your calendar for it, because there are some people, I'm sure that you're aware that you can already think of people who are really struggling who could use that check-in. Yeah, and I guess yeah, just being aware of what the resources are out there so that you can share them. So if it comes to you're doing the check-in and it turns out they're really struggling. They're caring for a spouse who's very ill. Do you know about the flexible work options? Can you tell them how to access them? Just be a little bit schooled up on some of that stuff. I hope everybody knows about 988 here in the US and in Canada is our national mental health crisis line. So that's always kind of available and a graceful way to just say to somebody, man, you are dealing with a lot. I'm so sorry that you're having so much. You can't be their therapist, right? So I'm so sorry you're dealing with so much. Did you know that there are some resources out there? Is probably what I would do. I'm so glad that you have had such a great career with Chevron. That's wonderful.
All right. Well, we're a little bit over time, so I think we're going to call this. Thank you so much for joining us. Is there anything that you would like to pitch or tell everybody about for the podcast audience?
I have a weekly text every Thursday at around noon Eastern time. I send out a text message. The phone number, if you type in the word Blackbird and text it to 855-975-1945. I'm like, am I getting this right?
Okay,
I
maybe
think
we'll
so.
make
Put it
sure we'll have the
on the
note.
notes would be good.
Yeah, put that in the show notes for sure.
But I send out a text every Thursday just about leadership and empathy and resilience, all these topics. So if you're interested.
I think this was, as you can see, this was so important to the
Very
tech
good.
audience.
We're going to look it up because
We're going to put it in the show notes.
We'll definitely put it on the website.
So you guys will have
Yes.
to subscribe to the podcast. Well, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel, which would be great. Any closing words from you, madam?
No, thank you so much for joining it. And this actually helped me a lot too.
Good.
So thank you.
This is so amazing.
Oh, good.
That's great.
Amazing. It's really
Yeah.
I'm glad everybody came and everybody enjoyed it. And we're going to sign off for right now. And thanks very much for joining us for another episode of Tech Aunties Podcast. We'll see y'all soon.